Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we're anything but straight. My name is Space.
And I'm Sparrow.
And we welcome to our episode, which is about what today?
Today, we're going to be discussing what we think is the Renaissance era of the furry fandom. And, I think we all generally have an idea of what Renaissance means to us in our brain. Some of you might think of the Renaissance Festival. Some of
That's
you
what
may
I was
think
thinking.
Yeah, I know, right?
I was like, ooh, Red Fairs. This would be really fun.
Red Fair, or some of you might think of the arts, like the Renaissance era of art and literature.
Oh, gosh,
but with the furry fandom, it's, it could be a bit different. Do you want to define what a Renaissance is just in general before we begin?
Yeah, so a cultural renaissance. Is that where you want me to start?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a period of rebirth in its culture's art, literature, intellectual pursuits, and societal values. For example, the Disney Renaissance is commonly seen as being from 1990 to about 2000. So think like The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, Aladdin, Mulan, Beauty and the Beast, etc. But now look where it is.
For real. Like when Disney was just publishing banger after banger, so many good movies, everybody thinks about the Disney classics. That's a cultural renaissance.
But if you look where Disney is now, you're looking at movies that are flopping left and right, ones that don't really just stick with you as much as you would think they would.
They're like too safe.
They're too safe, or they're pushing too much on certain social topics, and it's just not working. And like the Marvel would be a great example of a renaissance, because Marvel really made great movies like origin stories. And then they had the Avengers Endgame, and that was it. That was the end of Marvel's renaissance. Anything they've made after that has really not been great, has not been awesome, not noteworthy of anything. And now they're making a new Avenger ones, and they're changing storylines, and I'm just like, maybe try something new. They're remaking live action versions and all of these things of things that they don't need to do. And it kind of ruins the magic.
It's almost like they're scrambling if they're remaking things. It's like, are you scrambling to try to go back to the Renaissance era, or are you just doing this for money? It feels like the latter. It feels like the money.
And the movie industry is no different. Most, if you see things these days, are remakes of things that have already been made. There's like no innovation in movies these days. I can't remember the last time I actually went to the movie theater because I wasn't excited for many of anything that was out there, because it's like, this has all been done before. Why aren't you creating something new? And if that, why are we all doing green screen? Whatever happened to the good old days of like shooting on site, like just good, pure aspect of cinema.
Mm-hmm. And all these things could be seen as parallel with the fandom, honestly. All these criticisms we're giving just Disney. So, it's important to remember that a renaissance isn't when something begins. So we're not thinking of when things were starting to be invented or when things were starting to be. It's rather when something is reborn. So it could be like a surge in visibility or popularity, or maybe a boom in some kind of creative output, or like creative vibes in a culture, self-confidence, or new tools or platforms changing how things are made or how people view things. So like with furries, it could be new platforms or new ways for people to communicate with each other, new ways to create or monetize work. And that's really what we're talking about today. Not how the fandom was created, but that big boom that it had. And for us, I think we really determined that the furry renaissance was between 2000s to 2016. So we're breaking it up into two chunks here. We have like the beginning of the renaissance from 2000s to 2010, and then the tail end of the renaissance from 2011 to 2016.
And you might think, well, hey, we live in 2026 and the fandom looks great to me. But we have thoughts on that, and we'll get to that later.
Yes. So you're older than me, Space. Not to throw your age around like we did the last episode we recorded in. But
I'm 39.
39.
I don't really feel 39 when it comes to I feel 39 for most things, but for other things, I don't. Like in the fandom, I don't see myself as 39. I see myself as younger.
That's pretty normal. Your mental age is always different than your physical age.
Yeah.
So I think the first half of our renaissance the 2000s to 2010, I would call that the growing digital age. Why don't you start us off with that experience? Because you had a more developed frontal lobe than me around this time.
Yeah, so this would be like DeviantArt and For Affinity's golden age. So gallery websites were where people gathered online to share their work and interact with their communities in a digital space. On them, you could post your artwork, literature, photography, interact with others using comments, shout outs, journals, or even DMs. You could create and join groups, pages to find other people with common interests.
I miss group pages.
Were
you a part of any?
I mean, we had our own. We had like the Fur Media one. And but then it kind of died off.
There were some like for specific states too, like Georgia furs or Colorado furs. And that was like an easier way to find community too with those group pages.
And now it's funny you mentioned that because now you find these types of scenarios in Telegram now. So you've got like state Telegram groups. But the funny thing is if you want to find people to make friends with, you got to join those convention chat groups and channels, which I think is so interesting because it's the opposite of what I used to do.
Yeah, honestly. It feels so big. You could also commission artists and advertise your own work on these like gallery websites. It was a lot easier to do so because everybody was just swarmed onto the one page. And with the groups even, you can advertise local furry group meets. So you could get these online people together in person easier. And then even just tutorials and tips for fursuit making or for art in general. It was just all in this centralized space. And DeviantArt was more so for any artist ever.
General artists.
Not
specifically in the fandom, but just like all over the place.
Yeah. And then For Affinity was for furries, by furries, And I used both a lot. I mean, I started being a furry in middle school. And of course, DeviantArt was the first one I joined because I didn't know For Affinity was a thing until I was in high school. But I mean, either way, it was cool to be able to log into one website and to be able to both curate your own like interests by following certain artists and communicating with certain artists while also being easily able to find new art because of the homepage refreshing without any bias. There's no algorithm. It's just, hey, this was just uploaded. Or the search bars and using tags. Like tags on Twitter and on Instagram are just so broken.
They really are.
Twitter.
It makes no sense because you could use like a tag or like a hashtag for one thing, but then in other areas outside of the fandom, people will use that same tag. And so now when you tag with it, like something general like
fox,
yeah, or furry, right? Furry for us means the fandom. Furry for others means the texture or stuffed animal, or it could actually mean an animal, but it's not what you're looking for. So you get all of these things content-wise based off of that one tag that is not really in your interest, but there's nothing you can do about it.
It was just a nice concentrated artist space. And it's just the encouragement you would get even as like a new artist by being able to log in and make an account on a gallery site it was so refreshing because you knew the people there were going to be either artists or fans of art. Artists or art collectors. So when you post, or you make a journal or anything, it's all art centric. Whereas on other like Twitter today or Instagram today, people who are just there to socialize, like they're not artists, they just have their Instagram to post their life. They don't have that same perspective as an artist. And so it doesn't feel as curated. I'm not saying I want to exclude non-artists, but like, if you appreciate art, then you're still a part of that artist community.
And, there were other sites too, right? Wasn't there like So Furry and
Weasel.
Ink Bunny.
Ink Bunny is still around, but it has a lot of weird shit in it.
Weasel was the outcome of Fur Affinity constantly going down. FA doesn't go down as much anymore. In fact, it probably goes down like maybe once or twice a year, where it used to go down like all the time.
Yeah.
Which was so frustrating. But like it became its own culture. Like FA's down. Let's all go to Weasel. And then, after FA went back up, everyone left Weasel. We went back to FA. So, and the interesting thing about Fur Affinity versus Weasel is that they're complete polar opposites of how you find information. So for instance, on Fur Affinity, you could search or use a subcategory and find exactly what you wanted. Or you could search for the keyword and find exactly what you wanted. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, you had Weasel, which had too many options to choose from. And when you use a search word, it didn't give you anything that you were looking for. It kind of gave you the opposite. So you had this like very disorganized, not so great functional alter option to when Fur Affinity went down. But then you had Fur Affinity that was great with what it was doing, but there were some issues with it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like hit and miss. For me, I still go to Fur Affinity. I have my own account. I don't post to it, but I should be. I've actually been thinking about this for the last year. Of all the art that I've gotten, why haven't I been posting on Fur Affinity?
You know,
or
I think
on
about
Twitter,
that a lot
or
too.
on Blue Sky? I think it has to do with maybe one or two things. One is laziness, for sure. And then two is the popularity of it.
I think about the idea of how easy it would be if we all just collectively decided to do something. Like, if we all just collectively decided, okay, let's go back to using gallery sites. I know for Affinity, I can't remember the cultural connection. Like, I know Will Dragoneer passed away, but I know there are some people involved with running for Affinity that are not the best people in the world. I'm not fully updated on any of that information. So I'm not
criminal, maybe?
Yeah, criminal behavior. I don't know exactly what. Like I said, I just know from, just whispers around that they're not great people running that website. And so that's why a lot of people left it. But like, even if there's a new website that has been made, or if those people have, passed away, or if they're not running it anymore, if we could all just decide to go back to something like that, I feel like it'd be so refreshing. Or like if everybody decided, okay, let's all finally use Blue Sky. And I feel like Blue Sky is growing. I've been really bad about not using it because I'm just trying to step away from social media in general. So my want to invest time into growing my Blue Sky is hard to pick up on when you just don't want to use social media at all anymore. But like, if we all just decided, okay, let's go to this place to post our art, it would be so much easier. It would be so much easier, but that's not how humanity works,
Yeah, and in most cases I find, we were discussing about this before we started recording, is that now when I find an artist, if I want to know more about them, I have to click on something called Card or Linktree. And then from there, to find their commissions, I have to click on one link. And then to find a gallery, I have to click on a different one. And it takes me to these different websites. And it's like, this is so frustrating. Why can't I just have you on one location where it's just universal? Why are we going through all these different sub-platforms that make no sense, that you have to sign up to use, or, log in to just view one thing? It's just a lot.
I think the monetization of the fandom probably contributes to that, because to make money and to have your art seen, to have a livelihood off of it, which I'm not blaming artists for doing that. You have to have your hands in every bucket. And it's just a shame that we don't have one big bucket like we used to with a gallery website. But they were wonderful. God, I miss them.
Here's the thing with Fur Affinity, right? Its renaissance might be over, but it's still really active. Despite what I've said, it's active, but in a different way. Active in the way of more furries are posting their literature onto it. More furries are posting their albums of music and videos or animations, and more furries are posting for their more collective animation projects specifically. Like, for instance, Fatty Dragonite still uses Fur Affinity. I appreciate that. Now, he does use Google Drive for most of his stuff, but when you click on the link from Google Drive, it still takes you to Fur Affinity. And so it kind of still goes back to it. Yeah. So it's not dead, but it's not really innovating at the moment either. Yeah. It's just kind of active, but in a different way that you wouldn't normally think.
I might look back into Fur Affinity and see, if I can morally support it, I might log back in and see if I could keep posting on it again.
And the sad thing is I follow a lot of artists on Fur Affinity. And I used to see on the daily or the weekly 30, maybe more submissions a week or every 2 weeks. Now I see maybe 1 to maybe 5 per 2 weeks. It's slow. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they went. And if I go to their page, it doesn't tell me where they can be found. I actually have to usually use Google or Wikifur to figure out where they are. And even then, that's mysterious. So the artists have either left or they've relocated, but they haven't given you an avenue as to where to find them.
Yeah, or they changed their name. I had to rebrand a few years ago, and I can't remember if my old Fur Affinity is still up. I don't think it is. But if it was...
You rebrand more than I know other artists do.
Well, I was forced to rebrand a couple years ago because my students kids found my shit, but
Yeah.
that was not my choice.
Rebranding is not a bad thing. It's just something that some people need to do in order to kind of like refresh everything.
Oh, refresh.
Refresh.
So a different version of a gallery site, because gallery sites is usually, I mean, you can post literature, you can post music, you can post pictures. Videos are a little bit less common, but that's where YouTube comes in. YouTube was huge in the furry fandom, and not huge in the way that it is now, because now YouTube is huge for everything. And for everybody, whether you're a furry or you're a cosplayer or you're just a random person talking about politics or the weather or you refurbish cars. Like, there is big YouTube channels for every single hobby that exists now. But when it comes to the furry fandom, in the early 2000s, YouTube was huge. Because videography was like something that was a little more obtainable, but also growing and changing in its accessibility. Like, you could get a cheap little video camera and it was better than your phone camera, because your phone cameras back then weren't shit. They were just doing their best. But you could still get a little camera at like a Walmart or whatever and just do your thing. I think one of the main things I watched a lot in the early 2000s and 2010s was like fursuit dancers or fursuit dance groups.
Absolutely.
Dude, they had their own little corner of the internet on YouTube, and it was awesome.
And they came from all around the world. I mean, they still do post like YouTube for dance competitions, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, like now you'll still have dance furs on YouTube posting like routines every now and then, or clips from dance comps. But fursuit dancers used to just film themselves dancing in the living room, uncut, unedited, and boom, just uploaded it. And it was so cool.
Yeah, like one of my favorites, and she doesn't post as much anymore, is Tayer, or Albino Topaz. She's still one of my absolute favorite guests to ever have, but also a really good friend as well. And she did those things where she did like different fursuit dances that were sometimes in her house. Sometimes it would be in the middle of nowhere or on top of a mountain where there's snow. Like, in these most abstract locations, but it was so much fun. And I remember like downloading those videos and listening to them when I drive to work or when I was working on stuff at home. It was just, I don't know, it was different. It was a lot of fun, and I miss those days. It's nostalgic now.
It was less professional. Like, I think professionalism, and we'll get to these types of topics later in the episode, but I think professionalism is one of the things that killed the Renaissance era. The idea that you were just a person and you would just film a little piece of your life, or you would make a little skit, and it didn't have to be like camera quality, picture perfect. You weren't doing it for clicks or views. You're just like, I just want to share this, and you did. It was just so real. And I miss that. And it was the same with fursuit makers too. Like fursuit making tutorials, it was just somebody holding a camera or propping it up on like a bookshelf and filming like, hey, here's how I do this. Go for it. Like, try it out. Like, fursuit tutorials were you just felt like you were sitting in the workshop with them and learning with them. It wasn't these perfectly curated. Were they harder to follow? Yes. The curated tutorials now are so clear, but also it just shows that growth of the time.
You also had like YouTube actors and movies. So you had like RevFur. There were like at least 10 different specific like furry videographers that really made like absolutely beautiful fursuit related movies or music videos. Like, there's always a dance music video for Anthrocon, and I can't remember who used to do them, but
was it Sparky?
No, well, Sparky and Duke would organize and coordinate them. But I'm trying to remember who. Oh yeah, Easy Wolf. There's
Easy Wolf.
RevFur.
They also did a lot of FurCon, like furry convention music videos too. Like,
oh yeah,
the acting and the FurCon videos, they tend to double dip in that way.
Double dip.
Yeah, Revit also did the movie length convention videos, and I still watch those once or twice a year. I'll go back to the like FWA the movie or Anthrocon the movie. I think one of them isn't even on YouTube anymore. It's just on their Vimeo. But whenever I'm feeling down or unmotivated or separated from the fandom, I go back to those two movies specifically and watch them. Are you pulling up somebody you want to shout out?
No, I'm trying to pull up some of the channels we used to follow. I usually keep a list of all the channels. Well, whatever. If I find them, I'll put them in the description.
I know we don't support them now, but Don't Hug Cacti was a big part of your intro to the furry fandom on YouTube, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Because they had those like spoof clips that they would make.
I'm going to say, I'll be honest, until the news about Don't Hug Cacti came out, I loved all of their stuff. But the thing is there was some disagreements in what they believed in, who they supported. And there was also social pressure that I also gave into as well.
Yeah.
So, and that has happened with a few artists that I followed. There was a fursuit maker in Europe that I absolutely loved, but then they came out and said something against the community and the LGBTQ plus community. And then of course, social pressure. And I just couldn't follow them anymore.
Yeah. That's happened to one of my favorite artists too. And even to this day, I think about their art style. I'm like, God, I miss their shit. But they were into some pretty disgusting things. So,
Yeah.
I don't even think they're on the internet anymore because they've been so outcasted by the fandom. But I'm like, I still think about the art I've commissioned. I'm like, man, the art was so pretty. It's a shame I don't feel right hanging it up or posting it
Here's
anywhere.
the thing with those types of artists. So I found that they haven't actually left the fandom. They've reestablished themselves under a different name.
Yeah,
now,
usually.
Despite you rebranded because it was something that needed to be done, but it wasn't something that you did wrong in the fandom or in life in general.
Yeah.
But a lot of other furries, when they've been called out or there's been police reports or known sexual predatory activities, these furs will go offline, rebrand, and come back as someone completely different. And it's a smokescreen and people just don't really make the connection. But for the rest of us, we do keep track of it.
Mm-hmm.
So generally when I see someone that's changed their name, their whole persona, everything about themselves, that's generally a red flag for me because it's like, what did you do wrong?
Yeah, I'm like, hello, got a red flag.
Hello.
Something else I really miss about YouTube were just general blogs and skits that people would post. I remember I had a blog that I posted like 2015 or whatever, and it's on private now, but it was just me going to go see my friend in Florida while wearing one of my fursuits. And like, that was it. There was nothing crazy. It was just, well, the craziest part about the video was me getting chased by seagulls in my fursuit. But like, other than that, it was just me messing around with a camera, and those just little casual vlogs. Oh, they're not as common anymore. I miss them so much.
I used to do the same thing too. Outside, before I really even started Fur Media, I used to make like fur meet videos.
Yeah.
And then I'd put them to music. So every transition that was made was done through the beat of the music. So it was natural when you watched it. Or I'd make like stop motion, 1 frame by frame animations. So little things of that nature. Yes, I animate, but not in the way you think I do.
If you still have any of these, you should put them in our drive. I want to watch them.
Okay. I mean, I have them. They're a lot of fun. Another thing that you would see on YouTube were speed paints and maps.
Yes.
You don't see maps very much anymore.
No, you don't. I mean, the maps that are posted now are so like pro. It's incredible. I remember maps, which means multi-animation project, by the way. Maps used to be like something a lot of young people would get together and try to do, like these music videos to Warrior Cats or like Pokemon multi-animation projects. They were just, I remember being obsessed with them. I would watch the same ones over and over and over again because I was always so impressed by just the animation quality that these like middle schoolers and high schoolers were doing.
And the whole concept is they would go, okay, we have like a 2-minute music video. We have like 300 different artists. Each artist gets like maybe 30 seconds to 45 seconds of animation time, if not less. And the cool thing is that each part of the map itself was a little bit different. So you got to see these 30 to 45 second blocks of different styles of animations taking over it. And it was so cool.
And they all blended together really well. Also, and then speed paints. I remember that's like how I learned how to draw. I didn't really look at art tutorials because my attention span wasn't there for it in middle school, but I would watch speed paints to music. And I would notice just little things that the artists would do and try those things out myself. And then I would post speed paints too. And I actually might still have a few published on my YouTube channel. I don't know, but my YouTube channel has been abandoned for a long time. But like speed paints were just a fun way to watch how art was made quickly.
And it's really eye-opening to watch that. People still do post speed paints. They're just not as popular anymore. But what's really crazy is to see how many layers one artist will use for one particular commission.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized how many layers there were. When I would do stuff, I would make like 5 or 6 layers and I'd be doing a ton on each one. But they do like 50, 100, hundreds of layers that have different like aspects of the art on them. I'm like, holy shit. They're at a totally different level than I am.
God,
I had no idea that's what it goes into. That's why the art takes so long.
Yeah. And if I'm like thinking about all these, just looking at YouTube alone, we have a lot of variety here, right? Like we've talked about the fursuit dancers, we've talked about the speed paints, we've talked about vlogs, we got even just clips from furry conventions. Like Telephone blew up because someone filmed them squeaking at them, and it was like a 30-second or a 1-minute long clip of Telephone. Or like same thing with Flux, the kangaroo with the squeaking, like just little tiny clips that were posted. There's so much variety in what was present on YouTube. And I think that's really what connects back to the idea of this being a renaissance, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a boom in creative output. So when something feels different, like now we keep saying, oh, it feels different now, it feels different now. I don't want to seem like a boomer, like back in my day, but when I think about just YouTube on its own, if we isolate it, YouTube then, with all the variety that you have, none of it was, well, not a lot of it was like super professional, versus now, I feel like the furry fandom now, the only thing I really see that pops up in the algorithm is like Talk Sprite drama YouTubers, which nothing against them, but there's just a lot of them. Or like people talking about fandom topics while playing a video game. But I don't really see skits. I don't really see, I mean, there's fursuit tutorials still as well. Like that's a big part too. But people aren't just your everyday Joe Schmoes of the fandom aren't just posting their vlogs anymore or furry music videos, or it's not, there's not as much of a boom as there used to be with everybody participating. It's just like the big dogs uploading and that's it.
And it's not just one way here. It's not a one-way road for this particular subject. YouTube over the years has added new rules, permissions, little stipulations. There's tons of copyright infringement things you can post, things you can't post, who you can cater to, who you can't cater to. And that makes it a lot harder too to produce like content or your content without being able to have a wider audience. You're now targeting specific audiences. It makes it difficult.
I'm so glad you said that, because I forgot about that whole side of things. Like a renaissance is not purely on the shoulders of the furries. It's on the shoulders of also the world around us and how society and how our technology is changing and adapting. And then people just change and adapt with it. So with YouTube, like again, isolating it just to YouTube, with them changing to an algorithm or with them changing terms of service and making it harder for everyday people to have their stuff seen, it just dries up the variety, you know?
Yeah. Now with YouTube in general, there are some little things that are kind of keeping it steady is the shorts.
Yeah.
I really like YouTube shorts because that's where I find little animations from different artists, and they're usually like maybe a minute, maybe less, but it's fun and it keeps my attention. And then, it recommends more, and I see more varieties of artists doing those types of things, and I really like it as well. So, it's kind of a bonus, but it's not like wave making. They're just little ripples.
So I feel like that wraps up the early stages of the furry renaissance pretty well. And the late stage of it, I would say, is between 2010 to 2016. And I think the big turning point for this change in the early Renaissance to the late Renaissance is the introduction of social media pages. Furfinity and DeviantArt were still there. They were still popular. But because cell phones were getting better and better and also more affordable for just everybody to have, social media apps started to appear and they exploded in popularity. And you could also use a lot of social media apps on your laptop too. So even if you couldn't have like a nice cell phone, you could still use these apps on your computer as well. Like Twitter, I know you could use on both. Instagram, I don't think you can use on your computer very easily. Tumblr, you could use on both.
You can use Instagram on the desktop. It has the same properties as the app, but it's more app friendly. It's not geared towards browser use.
Yeah. But then Vine and TikTok, which are definitely like phone. Those are phone only. But still, like most people had a cell phone. And the furries started to pick up on this. It started to make their own little communities. And, you know, with it being more accessible, you started to get more variety with the furries that are using it. So gallery sites primarily focused on sharing art. So like artists would post, obviously, and art collectors and art appreciators would be on those sites. But social media was for anybody. Like you could still share art on them, but it's also a place where you could just talk. You know, you didn't have to post anything or make anything to post. It's just, you know, here's what I ate today, or here's what I think about what's going on in the world right now. Like anybody could really interact in a super social way on them. So Vine, I didn't have a Vine. Did you have Vine?
Not really, but we watched a lot of Vine compilations. We still do.
We just can't let it go.
Because they're nostalgic and they're so funny.
Yeah.
Let me talk about Vine real quick.
Yeah.
Because Vine and TikTok are very similar. In fact, TikTok was being developed during the end of Vine's renaissance, but it was under a different name.
Musical.ly?
Yeah, Musical.ly. And it wasn't really catching on. We'll talk about Vine first. Vine was such an interesting concept because you were only allowed to make videos that were like 7 to 8 seconds long. That's a very small window, but it was enough to catch your attention and keep you wanting more. And what was really interesting about Vine is that because you only had that much time, you had to really figure out what your concept and content was going to be. And so some of the stuff was really funny. Some of the stuff was really informational. It really drove creativity to its limit because you had to really think about what you were going to do in that 6 to 7 window. In fact, because of that as well, most of the industry outside of the fandom caught on and they saw that, well, if these videos can catch the attention of millions of people, why can't our ads catch the attention of other people in 6 seconds or less?
6, 7.
So yeah, no.
Sorry.
I hate that term. I'm sorry. Anyone who says, I don't understand why 6, 7, I'm going on a tangent here, has literally no meaning to it. There's no definition to 6, 7.
I know. I just had to bully you because my kids bully me every day. Every day.
It's crazy because like it's thought that its reason is used as an interjector in conversation or to change the conversation, but it doesn't have a definition. So there's no real purpose for the word 6, 7 or the phrase other than just to annoy people, which is in itself really annoying.
You're welcome.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I feel like Vine was like it planted the seed, which is funny because Vine,
yeah.
But it planted the seed for a lot of like furries that still use YouTube and TikTok today because that's like it's just like where a lot of it started, just people messing around and making funny little videos on Vine.
After a while, I think Twitter bought it and shut it down, which I don't understand. Why would you buy something that's incredibly successful and shut it down? Because it didn't help Twitter at all.
No.
Twitter was already failing. Twitter still is failing, and they're not making a profit. So why would you take a program or a concept that is thriving, that is willing to make a profit, and shut it down when you yourself are not profitable?
Yeah.
So it makes absolute no sense.
None
TikTok came into the realm though, because they came out as an app called Musical.ly, which was more music based at first, but it wasn't catching on very fast until they changed their name to TikTok. And then that's when things exploded. TikTok became the new Vine, which became the new Instagram, which is where you find furries today.
Yes. And the thing about TikTok, like early TikTok, I think about how I've mentioned for YouTube and for Affinity, how it's so accessible that anybody was posting just Joe Schmo vlogs and how that's not much of a thing anymore on YouTube. It's also movie quality to be seen. But TikTok, it almost discourages that. Like when I'm scrolling TikTok or Instagram Reels, if I come across a video that is too high quality, I assume it's an ad and I keep scrolling. So it's almost like backpedaling into that concept of you want just everyday people to post their everyday things. And with furry specifically, you had so much variety. Like on TikTok. You would have some really short tutorials on fursuit making or drawing. You could have people just being like, hey, I'm rating your fursuits. You guys sent me pictures. And that's really cool. Or you might have drama, because there's always drama, like talking about different people or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But it's so short form and accessible that it almost felt like old TikTok, or quote unquote old TikTok. I'm not on TikTok anymore, so maybe it is still like this. But TikTok felt like what the early internet used to be with the fandom specifically. Maybe the ads have changed it to not feeling the same now, but at least around 2016, it definitely felt that way for me.
Here's what's really interesting about TikTok, though. So if we look at TikTok now versus where we were in the beginning, I guess you could say, of the Renaissance, we had Poppyfurs, right? And Poppyfurs were just known, but there was only like a handful of them. There wasn't that many people that were able to outshine or to really grow in their own self, but also within the community. It was always focused on Poppyfurs. Now on TikTok, it's made the fandom grow because people can grow and show themselves, and everyone can be popular. It's such a dramatic pivot of where it was before to where we are now in the fandom. Yeah, I've seen hundreds of furries out there, all different types of artists, all doing types of things, and they've got millions of subscribers. And it's just mind blowing because I'm like, oh my God, like there are more furries that are able to be themselves and shine brightly on the stage, not just by themselves anymore, but by everyone. Everyone's on stage. Everyone has a chance. So there are some good things about TikTok. That would be one of them, but there are also bad things. I'm not going to go on that tangent.
Yeah.
It's too deep.
It is too deep. But yeah, it's incredible. I know, even if we see the effects, you can see the effects that the internet has on in-person events. And with TikTok, and think about TikTok versus before TikTok existed. If you go to a convention and you were a Poppyfur, I remember going to conventions in the early 2010s and seeing popular fursuiters swarmed. Like they could not escape the circle of people wanting pictures with them. And I remember people would talk about it. Like I think I remember Telephone talking about how like sometimes she wouldn't wear her suit because she just wanted to hang out with her friends and to not be surrounded by people wanting pictures. And now when I go to a convention, I can see popular furries, more of them, but also just people in general. Like the crowding around single people is not terrible. Like there aren't lines. The only line I've seen for fursuit pictures was the Bandit fursuiter at Furry Week in Atlanta. And he specifically posted, because he was adorable. But also, it's a fursuit of a character that exists in a show. So, like, he's like, hey, I'm standing in this place if you want a picture with me. And like, that's cute. But, like, it's not like an inconvenience or a swarm anymore. And I think it's because of what you said. Everybody gets a moment to shine. And it's like, it's more evenly distributed, you know? And that's lovely.
It is lovely. The only thing I don't necessarily like about apps like TikTok and stuff, because of how widely they're used. Now when you go to a convention, everyone's doing a selfie video. And it's like that kind of defeats the purpose of going to a convention. You go to a convention to interact and have fun and to kind of just get away, not to go and bring your social life with you online, have to see everything you're doing. It works for some artists out there like Astra. That's like their whole thing, and that's great. But I don't want to go to a convention where everyone's on their phone and everyone's just taking videos and selfies of themselves. It's kind of pointless.
I was talking about that last Furry Week in Atlanta, where there's always drama that happens at a convention, and everybody who's not at the con are the people talking about it. Right? Because everyone who's at the con is busy being at the con. But like whenever I see folks scrolling their phones or whatever while they're at a convention, talking about whatever's going on at the convention, but on their phones, I'm like, you could do the same thing, but just by looking up. Like you're talking about the convention to people on your phone instead of talking about the convention to the people sitting across from you. Hello?
It's not hard to strike up a conversation. But then again, there's also social anxiety as well.
Yeah, and a lot of furries do struggle.
Yeah.
I find that I have the best conversations with strangers when I'm waiting in line. Like, I try not to use my phone while waiting in line. I'll draw, or I'll just sit and talk to my friends. And, I've gotten a lot better about striking up conversations with just people next to me. And it's just, you might not become best friends. You might. You never know.
Yeah.
But, like, you have some banger conversations, and I still remember them, like, to this day.
And since we're on the topic of conventions, let's talk about convention attendance spikes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The tail end of the Renaissance was some growing pains for cons, that's for sure.
For sure. So, due to the fandom's growing online presence, the in-person presence at furry conventions began to spike as well. So, we've got some numbers here for you. Do you want to go over the numbers?
Sure. So, I found some numbers online, and I picked the 3 most popular furry conventions as a frame of reference. So, Furry Week in Atlanta, in 2010, they had 1,564 attendees. And in 2016, they had 3,431 attendees. So, that's a pretty big jump. Anthrocon had a big jump too. In 2010, they had 4,238 attendees. And in 2016, they had 7,310 attendees. And then a huge jump for Midwest Fur Fest. In 2010, they had 2,285 attendees, but in 2016, they had 7,075 attendees. Like, absolutely incredible jumps in attendance. And I think that has to do with just conventions aren't just word of mouth anymore. You have the internet to share these experiences. Like with YouTube, you got the convention videos, or with TikTok, you have the little clips, or with Twitter, you have the selfies or just talking about the different drama or the different events that are happening at these cons. And then people are going, oh, I want to go. And then boom, these huge spikes.
I'm pulling the attendance of one con that I reference a lot because it's closer to me, but it also represents something interesting.
Mm-hmm. Is it BLFC?
So, yeah. So BLFC started in 2013, so it's kind of in the middle of things.
Okay.
Their first con started at 704, and then in 2016, their con was ranging around 3,600.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
Oh my God, less than 1,000 to multiple thousands.
Yeah. And then now they don't really post anything. That's the weird thing. So they were one of those types of situations where they got popular really fast. The problem with something like that is that it inflates super quickly, but there's also the potential and risk to deflate just as quickly. And this is Biggest Little Fur Con. This is exactly what happened to them. So they were crazy. They almost, if not every year, doubled their numbers or added like 30% additional to their attendance numbers from the last year. They grew super quick. Now, in 2013 to about, I'd say 2017 or 18, their themes were on par. Like you go to a convention, not just to go to a convention, but also for the themes, because that's what also makes it really fun and people interact with those themes. BLFC had that thing going for them. They had like really in-depth themes. They had like one that was all about a weird society where everything was kind of like Big Brother
dystopian
kind of thing. And and it was really well done. They did like a Roaring 40s one or a Roaring 20s. That one was really well done. They did 80s. Absolutely loved it. But around 2017 and 18, the team or the staff that really did well with those left the con staff. And they were kind of left with everything else. And so they brought on more staff, but the themes were not great. From there forward, the themes have sucked balls. They don't carry through with them anymore. If there is a theme, you may or may not see it, but people don't really interact with it. And because of that, it's not just that, but it's also because of how they run their cons as well. Their attendance started dropping. And it's not up until the recent years where they've now started to do weekday cons, which is really difficult for people in general. Weekends are easier because you don't have to use as much PTO, and most people are free on the weekends. During the week, though, you have to use like 30 to 40 hours of PTO, if not more, just to cover your stay. And that's a lot because usually people use PTO for like doctor's visits, emergency situations. So if they're using up all of that, there's not much left over for reality for them.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, their switch to a weekday was kind of forced on them by the casino, but they were locked into, from what I understand, a 3 to 5 year contract. They have to do their cons on a weekday now. And because of that, their numbers now stay either around 3,000 or less, and it's dropping each year. So it's unfortunate. It had a really good start, had a really good run, and then things just kind of turned upside down. And now they're declining again.
You know,
I can't say I would ever want to go back to BLFC unless something dramatically changed.
I miss smaller cons, though, to be fair. Like, if it was on a weekend,
small cons are fun.
And it was still around, like, the 2000s number, then I would go just because, Furry Week Atlanta is getting too big for me. Like it a lot of it requires a lot of planning. I can't imagine going and not living in the same city as it because it's so much. And I kind of miss the smaller version of it. So maybe trying out some smaller cons is the move.
Small cons are great because not just because they're small, but because it gives you a better chance to get to know people better because it's in a smaller setting. And so you don't feel overwhelmed. Big cons are great too, but every con has its plus and minus.
Yeah.
So I recommend just maybe starting off small and working way up.
So with all that growth happening in convention spaces, there's also right towards the end of our Renaissance era, the explosive growth in fursuit quality and in digital art. Like technology and the internet, it's not just the fandom that's growing, it's just society in general, right? And because technology was improving so rapidly, people were evolving with that. So like with fursuit making, tutorials were easier to make and to post because you could film on your phone and you could get easy to use, cheap or free editing software online. So you could post those tutorials, or people were learning how to post patterns and you could share those or sell those online, or just all these different fursuit making methods like expanding foam or resin. Like those were new and accessible ways to make fursuit bases in the late 2010s, so 2011 to 2016. People could actually go to the hardware store and buy the stuff to make that because these tutorials were posted. It was insane seeing how quickly people were changing fursuit making methods and changing fursuit making to be high quality from the get-go. Because when you made fursuits in like 2003, you were using a glue gun and a prayer. Like, I used to get upholstery foam because like Joann's and stuff didn't sell as much upholstery foam and Walmart didn't have it really. So I would go to like actual couch repair shops and be like, hey, do you have any scraps? Or use like plastic from the dollar store. Like people were just doing what they could. But with technology growing and changing and accessibility growing and changing, just the quality exploded.
Digital art as well. Programs for making digital art continue to expand. You've got things like
maybe like brushes.
Photoshop.
Oh, Photoshop. Yeah.
Photoshop is definitely, the term photoshopping is not the same it is now. Photoshopping now could refer to different types of art programs that Adobe provides to you for doing illustration and creating art. What was the thing you mentioned?
Brushes. It's like digital brush packs. People will make them and you can share them.
Online tutorials and digital services were easy to share and download.
Dude, my free version of Paint Tool Sai was my ride or die. I still have it on a flash drive.
I think what's the mirror version of Photoshop? It's also difficult to use if you go from one program to the other.
GIMP?
Okay.
I hated the name of that. I hate the name of that one.
GIMP? Okay. So if you were classically trained on Adobe Photoshop, Illustration, InDesign, all of their like really well-known programs, and then you try to give that up and go for something free like GIMP, it was like learning the software all over again. It was so difficult and frustrating because although it's a mirror program with adjustments, and it's so difficult. And like you said, I don't really understand why they chose the name GIMP, because I think of GIMP, I think of disabled, and I feel like you are disabled when you're using it.
Yeah.
But I don't like the name of it.
Terrible.
I don't understand
Why do they do that?
It's terrible name.
Like the quality of everything just absolutely, art and fursuits exploded.
Art programs, drawing tablets became more commonplace in computer stores and online marketplaces. Tablets are huge. They still are. There's Cintiq is one. Cintiq. Bamboo.
Is it Wacom?
Wacom.
Yeah,
Wacom makes Bamboo.
That's a brand. We have a Wacom.
My husband has one. It's a pretty big one. It acts as a monitor on itself, but the thing is huge.
Yeah, that's what ours is.
It's a big ass drawing tablet. Drawing tablets were huge. I think more people use iPads and tablets now rather than drawing tablets themselves. I think drawing tablets are either specifically used for professional reasons, but I don't know if many artists still actually actively go out and buy a drawing tablet at this point.
I mean, there's two different types of drawing tablets. You have the one that like Felix and my wife uses where the monitor is a tablet, and that's what like professional artists and animators use. And then you have the old school drawing tablets where it's just a piece of plastic that you plug into your laptop and you have a pen and you look at your screen while drawing on the piece of plastic. That's what I used.
That was difficult. I used it for like different types of things, and you had to retrain your brain to know that what you're drawing below is what's on the screen itself.
Yeah.
So that in itself was its own like thing. I don't know if I would recommend it today. I think the drawing tablets where you draw on the screen itself.
Well, that's when iPads were super expensive, but they still are.
iPads are, really
but the plug-in,
but there are
the plug-in tablets.
There are tablets that aren't.
There are, yeah. I've been thinking about I want a tablet. I just can't afford one right now. But like the plug-in ones are only $30 to $50, so like I could get why a lot of young people especially had them.
Some artists, this is crazy. I don't get how they're doing it, but they must be using a stylus and they must be super good at it, are actually drawing on their phone.
Yes.
It's smartphones, you know, I mean, they're thick and huge these days and they don't ever change in design. You know, the programs might, but the thing itself doesn't. So I look at my phone right now and I'm like, oh my God, if I had a stylus, I don't know if I could just draw on this thing. Like,
it's still too small.
I could do it for like Jackbox games. Sure, no big deal. But if you're talking like legit, like commissioned art pieces, there's no way.
Insane.
There's just no way. It's too much.
Well, with that, I think we come to the end of our Rennasaince space.
Yeah.
Oh, sad, but I do want to specify, like, we're reminiscing, right? And we're like, oh, it used to be this, it used to be that. But, like, just because it used to be something and it's different now doesn't mean it's bad. A lot of people will say the furry fandom is dead or it's ruined or it isn't as good. And, like, that's an opinion you could still have. And I could agree with some aspects to it. But staying in a Rennasaince state is impossible. And there's a cultural reason why this happens, right? With every boom, no matter what it is, whether it's the actual Renaissance, like Renaissance Fair historical, or the Renaissance art and literature era of the United States and Britain, there's going to be a plateau moment. It's a moment of consistency, right? Like a Renaissance is a fun era to think back on, but it could also be seen as stressful because it's so much change happening all at once. Yeah. So we're at a plateau, right? Like what Space said with the phones. The phone is a phone is a phone. Like it might have a better camera or it can have more memory, but it looks the same. Back in the early 2010s, every phone looked drastically different.
Wild. They had ones that you could like, there was one called Juke, and it was like this mini jukebox, but you would flip it upwards. It was the tiniest, most unusable phone ever, but it was awesome.
Oh my God.
Like Nokia made tons of like different versions. I've always wanted, it was called a Kick. Maybe it was a Sidekick. And basically it's like your phone, but then you could flip your screen up and the keyboard would be visible on it. And it was so cool. And I still want one just for nostalgic reasons.
Yeah.
But phones back then were awesome. I don't know why everyone decided let's do a standard rectangular phone that all looks the same. It's so boring.
Yeah. Oh my God. So like it's not that the fandom is the only thing at a plateau. I think it's just society in general right now. We're at a plateau culturally. Like movies, there's still good movies, but they're not like artistically drastically different or like cell phones, technology. And it's not technology, it's accessible technology. Like technology in general is growing, but it's not technology that is accessible to your everyday person like it was. Same thing with the furry fandom. We might have a growing change in technology for cool new ways to animate or cool new ways to make fursuits, but not everybody can afford them or access them. It's only a select few. Right. So it's that plateau that we're in. And that's okay. That doesn't mean there's not going to be another boom. It's just something we have to wait out and see.
And there are little innovations and little things happening in the fandom that are making a buzz, but they're not, like you said, they're not mainstream quite yet. There's like things you can attach to your fursuits. There's things you can do with art. There are lots of different aspects that are kind of buzzing, but they're not really making a wave yet. Right now, you might think, I don't see the fandom in a renaissance. I don't see it like ending right now. And that's fine. You know, everyone has their opinion. But the thing is nothing's really changing quite yet. So we're kind of in a lull. But it'll happen again. You just don't know when it'll happen again. And there'll be more exciting things that happen. One of those exciting things that is happening, that is somewhat regularly available to most people is virtual reality itself. Has come a long way. And now you're able to connect with furries on a virtual level that you couldn't do in person because of distance and obvious restriction. But you don't have to have a headset for it. You don't have to have, like, I have a VR headset. It's the Meta Quest 3S because I didn't want to put out for the really expensive one. It does what it needs to do. I hop on with a little, podcast group, straight from the muzzle friends, kind of like VR group. We do it like once every couple of weeks. It's great. I get to see people that I can't normally see because of distance. They have a convention called Furry, which is awesome. They claim that it's the biggest fur con in the world, but in reality, fur cons are physical locations and virtual reality is not. So I could say it's probably the biggest online because it's the only one right now, but that is booming, but in its own way and on its own level. But I wouldn't say it's the start of something new. It's something that already exists now and everyone can use it, but not everyone understands how to use it.
So I want to know, because everybody has different experiences. Like, you were older than me during this era of Rennasaince. Well, I was a kid I was like a teenager. So I want to know, from you listeners, do you have any core memories from when you were alive in this era of the furry fandom? Or if you weren't, or if you were too young to remember, what was your experience like getting into the fandom whenever it was there for you? Like, what was a Rennasaince memory for you specifically? If you join our Telegram, feel free to share your memories or email us at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.